In this video or audio recording, I'm going to talk about spirits assigned to you from birth. There is this vague teaching in paganism and also in the New Age that some people have spirits assigned to them from birth. Well, this vague teaching is based on a true fact. But I'm going to explain this true fact to you so you understand what's really going on. Because the issue that many believers have today is that they lack proper knowledge. And because they lack proper knowledge, the enemy can come with additional information that makes sense and that adds up, but without a Christ-centered context. And that's how the enemy manages to drag many people into paganism and to cause many believers to operate in doubt. So, what are spirits assigned to you from birth? Simply said, society caused negative tension to flow towards you even before you were born, and with this psychic tension, demon spirits came. So, let me give an example. Let's say your mom was pregnant and let's say your father was not a well-liked man in the community. People couldn't stand your father. Whether it was deserved or not doesn't matter. People couldn't stand your father. And the thing is, because they couldn't stand your father was the target of psychic violence. The psychic violence affected your father in such a way that he ended up mistreating his wife. Because the psychic violence caused brain damage in your dad. And because of that, your dad developed coping mechanisms that were harmful both to himself and others, so he ended up mistreating his wife. And your mom, that is his wife, just coped with it. And this stress that she got affected the baby in her womb. And now the couple was under psychic tension. And because they were under psychic tension, they were completely open to evil spirits. And now several unclean spirits attached themselves to the couple, and a few of those evil spirits attached themselves to the unborn child. When you were born, the evil spirits were waiting for you to come out of the womb. And here's the thing. Before you came out of the womb, the evil spirits already had a plan for your life. Yes, evil spirits, they make plans for your life. Remember, evil spirits have been roaming the earth for thousands of years. They've seen generations come and generations go. They've seen empires rise and empires fall. So they have far more historical and sociological knowledge than we human beings have, who only came out of a womb a few decades ago. If you have an 80-year-old professor with multiple doctorates, and you have a filthy, stinking demon who's been roaming around here since, let's say, the Babylonian Empire, well, that 80-year-old professor may know a lot about ancient Egyptian history, but that unclean spirit really literally experienced ancient Egyptian history by possessing many people during that time. So that unclean spirit has experience of that time, and that's why that 80-year-old professor is not a match to that immortal, filthy demon that's been roaming the earth for thousands of years. So evil spirits, they know how to come up with plans for someone's life. They know how to come up with schemes to trick the masses in patterns and cycles, because evil spirits, they only have patterns and cycles. They have nothing more. So your mom and dad, in this case, they were in a cycle of seeking relief. That's what they were. So the evil spirits knew that when you grow up, you will take on that pattern unconsciously. So evil spirits already knew that they don't have to do anything about that. But it can be that the evil spirits that were assigned to you by society, it can be that they received orders from some demonic principality that they need to recruit some political leader. And then you will have a spirit of violence and a spirit of fear two of them that become attached to you. And during your childhood, you will often feel afraid. Or during childhood, you will often feel like you're the target of violence. It's because those familiar spirits who operate as spirits of victimization, they're drawing violence towards you. And because violence keeps being thrown towards you, you want to figure out what's going on. And because of this, you develop a political interest in order to manage violence in society. And that's how you end up in your teenage years joining some political movement, and later you end up as a politician. Now, people that look at your life will say that you developed your political interests by your own. That it was just your own pure interest that unfolded in life. Someone who's a bit more smarter would look at it and say, but this guy has no one in his family that was into politics. How come he's so political? So some people that look at the bigger picture, they realize that something doesn't add up here. This is what was going on. The demonic realm needed more politicians to deceive the masses. They needed more ignorant, people with good intentions that they could use. So before you were born, the evil spirits already had an assignment to recruit you for politics. So later in your life, this unfolded. Because demons know how to trick you and push you in a direction without you being aware of it. Evil spirits can trick you in a direction in such a way that you think that you did it yourself. You think it's your own interest. The same way you have women who are tricked into all types of weird religions and cults. And the root of why they ended up in life that way was before they were born. So society assigns demons to you. Society has a need to provide relief for the masses. And the evil spirits, they make sure that society gets its supply. That's why when your parents were wounded before you were born, or when you are wounded as a small child by society, it's society giving demons access to recruit you. So many people out there, they ended up in life the way they ended up because there were familiar spirits assigned to them. Now, during their lifetime, they had options, but options presented to them were presented to them in such a way to still trick them in the pattern that society assigns to them. So that's how evil spirits are assigned to people. There are times you have parents who get a charm for their business. For example, you may have parents, let's say you have parents who migrated from India or migrated from Afghanistan or from whatever country, and they want to start their own business. And they go to the priest, the pagan priest, whether it's a voodoo priest or whether it's a Hindu priest or whatever, they go to the pagan priest to get a charm. So they're there, and the witch doctor tells them, sir, you and your wife, you want this charm? You want to open your own hostel, or you want to open your own restaurant, or you want to open your own IT business? Fine. With this charm, you're guaranteed that you'll make a maximum of 5 million euros within the next decade. But one thing, you have 3 small children. One of them has to become a collective victim for society, and you have to choose which one it is. So the husband and the wife decide, is this child, Jamie. Jamie is 2 years old. Jamie has to become the sacrifice. And then the witch doctor tells them, this guy is going to end up as a sodomite. That's a very effeminate. He's going to become a very effeminate young man, where all sodomites wants to enter in. So he'll become the one that every sodomite around wants to put their cock in. That's what he's going to describe exactly what type of young man Jim is going to become later in life. And the parents say, okay, we agree with it. Then they do their blood rituals with animals or with incense, whatever. And then the husband and wife, they go to the Chamber of Commerce, they register their business, and what do you know? The business is quite successful. They make a lot of money. The family move to expensive neighborhoods. They move into a gated community. And as foreigners, they now are living in a gated community and they feel accepted and they become the model for all migrants and all refugees to become successful. They even go to universities and give speeches to motivate people from a migrant or refugee background. And the masses are inspired by their success story, but they don't know that this success, this smooth success, is a result of paranormal activity, and they don't know that the couple agreed to ruin the future of one of their own children to achieve it. Because with all charms come side effects. So if you go for a charm, sometimes you get the option to redirect the side effects to someone else. And there are pagan couples that redirect the harm to one of their own children. So, long story short, Jamie grows up, he feels sexually confused. Then you have victimization spirits that attract sex predators towards him, so he's sexually abused several times. And then later in life, he ends up going to gay bars all the time, pulling down his pants, and all other men enter into him. He's known as the fag slut of town. All over the place, young and old, and enter into him. And later, this Jamie thinks, how did I end up like this? This Jamie begins to hate himself. He begins to feel disgusted about himself. He's thinking, why am I the dumb side of all those fags around here? This Jamie can't explain why he ended up that way. In the LGBT community, they're telling him, well, you're just born that way, you just have to embrace it. Then there are conservative Christians telling him, no, it's just demonic possession. So Jamie had no idea how he ended up that way. Now, let's say this Jamie one day decides, you know what, I want to be free from this. That's a good sign. And he decides he's going to look for answers. Then, the first thing he will notice is the dismissive behavior of his parents. He never noticed the dismissive behavior of his parents before, but for the first time he noticed it. I noticed that, hold on a minute, why are my parents okay with me being like this? And then he realized that his parents are involved. And he realizes that his parents are quite permissive towards him. If he wants money for something, just give it to him. His siblings, the parents are quite strict with. So he thinks, why are my parents so permissive towards me? Why did they allow me to end up this way? And before you know it, he will find out that there is some demonic pact made at his expense. And he'll realize that he was the living sacrifice of his parents, so his parents could function in ease. So this Jimmy knows the truth about the situation. So when he sees all those migrants and refugees praising his parents as a great example, he feels disgusted because he's the one that has been ruined by his parents so that his parents could have this role model position in society. Just like that fictional Jimmy character that I made up, that's how a lot of people are. They have been made the living sacrifice of either their parents or their community. It happens. Some of you have spirits of debt or spirits of poverty haunting you. And those spirits were attached to you when you were a child. Let's say that your parents moved into a new area and your parents came into a conflict with people, and people negatively wished harm and poverty on your parents. The psychic tension affected you the most because you were a child. I mean, your parents were wounded, so your parents had no way to cover you, so it affected you. So you have one of those spirits of poverty attached to you. That's why everywhere you go, you have people that want to scam you, or everywhere you go, it's as if financial issues keep on haunting you. Every time you get a job, you're quickly fired, so you begin to think, why are all these things happening to me? You were assigned, and I'm saying spirits of poverty were assigned by the community to you because you couldn't stand your parents. Now, before you say, Rashid, it's quite far-fetched, hey, I'm telling you, such things happen all the time. If your mom and dad got together, but your paternal grandma, so the mother of your father, did not agree with the marriage, it can be that she becomes bitter at the children. That means the children of your parents, that includes you, because those are the fruit of the union she never wanted. So your grandma may be smiling in your face, but behind your back, she is accusing you. She's dumping her frustration on you because she's too coward to face her daughter-in-law. And then, in your teenage years, you suddenly experience a lot of doom, a lot of unnecessary trouble. You have people out of the blue that can't stand you. And later, those people apologize to you because they don't know why they became upset with you. And others, outsiders, going to think, why do people dislike this individual so much out of the blue, and they can't even explain it? So even a lot of people think something's off. This is what's going on. You were assigned demons of failure by your grandmother, who herself was a failure in life, and now she has projected failure onto her grandchildren so that she doesn't have to face herself. Many of you are listening to this. Listen to what I'm saying here. 98% of the difficulties you went through life before you became born again were the result of demons being assigned to you. I'm telling you, most people never realize that demons were assigned to them. But I'm telling you, it's important for you to realize this. Because those evil spirits, they're just parasites. They're losers. They're doomed anyway. So they don't care. They just take advantage of every opportunity they have to feed themselves. But you, the human being, the moment you realize that there's some weird pattern haunting you, look for help. Don't ignore it. And here's another thing. Many of the women out there who end up dying at the hands of abusive husbands, of wife beaters, they had spirits of victimization assigned to them by their communities. Whether it was before they were born, or whether it was when they were little children, they had ruin assigned to them. And this later worked out in their lives. So I'm telling you, this is something we need to pay attention to. That is why I want you to reflect on your own relatives for a moment. Reflect on your parents, reflect on your grandparents, reflect on your uncles and aunts, reflect on their social circle, reflect on the village or the town you grew up in, or if it's a ghetto, reflect on ghetto, reflect on your origin. I'm telling you, reflect on it. And be unapologetic about your reflection. Don't sugarcoat anything because it has to do with your origin, it has to do with people you're familiar with. The moment you notice that there's some odd pattern in your origin, then go into prayer about it. Because if you originate from there, then whatever was around there also affected you. That's how it goes. If you grew up in a place where they spoke Welsh, then Welsh will become your first language. You were affected by it. You cannot grow up in a place where everyone speaks Welsh and you end up speaking fluent Chinese. It doesn't work that way, right? So the same way, reflect on your origins. And once you go into prayer and you begin to notice more stuff about the people around you don't add up, pay attention to it. It can be, for example, that you have a grandmother or maybe an uncle or someone who's always dismissive of you. And you notice this about him, and you try to confront him one time, and he's dismissing it as if, well, there's nothing going on, what are you talking about? But your intuition shows you that something is off. You may ask your parents what happened in the past. Your parents may lie to you, saying it's none of your business, or they will tell you, oh, they'll cover things up, but you know there's something being covered up. And long story short, you figure out that either they did some ritual, making you the living sacrifice of the family, so that they could be left alone by the side effects of their own darkness, or you figure out that people wish harm on you, but you survived, and now people don't want to be responsible for the consequences of the harm they wish on you. That can be the case also. Listen, the same way people project, whether project good qualities or bad qualities on you, narcissists love to project their darkness on other people. The same way they can enforce demons on you. They can assign demons with their projection. Often they're not even aware they're assigning demons onto you. Some are, because they're malignant, others are not aware of it, but that is what's going on. And here's another thing. This whole thing of respect, of treating people a certain way, beware of it. Because all those patterns of validating other people don't come from God. They come from the world. And where did the world gets it from? Evil spirits. So if you hold on to the idea that people have to call you sir or ma'am, if you hold on to that, you are accursing yourself with a demonic pattern. You know why? Because you're holding on to a pattern to feel good about yourself. You're holding on to a pattern for your safety. And here's the thing, scam artists can call you sir and ma'am, be very polite towards you, and at the same time they're robbing you. So holding on to that pattern that people have to address you in a certain way, that's bullshit, straight up. But a lot of us, we hold on to validation patterns of society. Why? Because we were raised that way. And because we were raised that way, we are familiar with it, and now we want it to be validated. No, 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 no. Just because you're raised with it doesn't mean it's correct. And just because it's praised by the world doesn't mean you should agree with it. Too many of you are invested in your own doom because you hold on to validation patterns. Let it go. And here's another thing. This whole thing of cuss words, swear words, forbidden words, it's all nonsense. If English is your native language, you did not go through the massacres under Queen Maria I, which was a daughter of Henry VIII. You did not go through that period where many Roman Catholics killed Protestants in England. You didn't. During that time, you had a lot of spilling of blood, so the word bloody became a common term used. And later, the word bloody became common in English language to refer to a bad situation. And people began to classify it as a cuss word. Now, if you were born in that era and you went through all those massacres, then the word bloody can trigger pain in you. But most of you, and I'm saying none of us were born at that time. That era is centuries ago. So none of us should be triggered by the word bloody. Yet in Britain, when you say bloody, a lot of people could become upset. Why they're upset? Well, they never went through that period. They were taught to be upset when they hear certain words, which is a validation pattern, and hold on to it. So because you have this validation pattern that you hold on to, others can trigger you into anger. They only have to use what you consider cuss words or filthy or foul language, and you're upset. Now, because there's pain in you, this pain is weighing you down, and now you need to get out of there. Either you dump on the individual by attacking the individual for using foul language, foul language doesn't even exist, but you get what I'm saying, or you avoid contact with the individual. So what you don't realize is that you're being controlled by the triggers that society formed inside of you. But you need to face those triggers and realize, why am I upset when people use so-called cuss words? The word shit simply means excrement, and it comes from Germanic origin. Oh, but why am I upset with words from Germanic origin while English came partly out of the Germanic languages? So if English is a native language, but you're upset with words from Germanic origin, even though both the British people as well as the British language were partly from Germanic origins, you can think, what is this? They realize, no, just something that were conditioned in you. Okay, so why do I just agree with this conditioning? So why is it that we just agree with validation patterns like that and we don't even ask why? If that's you, sorry, but that attitude is quite dumb. I'm saying it straight as is. It's quite dumb. And many of you are keeping yourself in darkness by agreeing with validation patterns. And here's another thing. Validation patterns originate in the demonic realm. Because the demons want you stuck in patterns so they can have a hold on you. So anytime you invest and hold on to validation patterns, you are helping demons to keep you in darkness. So if evil spirits are assigned to you, you are the one sponsoring their accommodation in you by agreeing with validation patterns. Straight up. So, anyone clinging onto validation patterns, they are in darkness. I don't care how fancy the world makes it, it's darkness. And if they persist in validation patterns, then they also insist on the right to violate you when you don't validate the restrictions. People that are so upset with what they consider cuss words or foul language, they just want to be able to control you. They were controlled in how they speak by society, and now they want to do the same thing to you to feel validated. Who are they that they're entitled to control you? And who are they that just because you don't give in to the restrictions they cling onto, they have the right to neglect you or pretend like you don't exist? Who are they? And who are they that they think they have a right to attack you for not, or even physically harm you or mentally harm you because you don't give in to the restrictions? Many of our relatives did this to us, and their relatives doing it to them. But just because it has been going on for generations doesn't mean it has to continue with you. You can end that cycle. So, you want to get rid of demons assigned to you, give up validation validation patterns, and renew your mind. Well, that's it for now. Keep on agreeing with Christ and be